Mr. Secretary, I'm somewhat puzzled. I grew up in Virginia where Robert E. Lee was revered. I think when I was a kid, his birthday was a school holiday. But as I grew older and learned more about American history, I learned that he fit the classic definition of a traitor. He took up arms against his country. He broke his oath as a member of the United States Army, which he took upon entering his career at West Point. Why are you going through these incredible gymnastics, finding current soldiers or other soldiers to rename? And you slipped a minute ago. You said we're returning these bases to their original names. Robert E. Lee, leading general of the Confederacy, Pickett, the other names. Why are you doing this? I don't understand what the motivation is to rename bases for people who took up arms against their country on behalf of slavery. What possible motivation can there be for this? Who is telling you to do this? Who is urging you to do this?
Today's Senate Armed Services Committee hearing got heated as lawmakers pressed the Defense Secretary over two big issues: the renaming of military bases tied to Confederate leaders, and the unusual way the Biden administration is structuring its defense budget. Let's break down what happened and why it matters. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe for clear, policy-friendly breakdowns of the biggest moments in Washington.
Senator, the veterans and service members across the country who have deployed from Fort Bragg or Fort Benning or Fort Hood or Fort Pickett, there's a legacy, there's a connection to those bases and to those places, to what they trained for there, what they did for, and what they came home back to. That matters to them. Ask enough of them, as I do, all the time, before and later. And we recognize the service of those who were put into the replacement. No one's disputing that. I would never dispute that. What we're looking at is erasing history, erasing names, erasing base names that service members are tied to.
Talk
to people that serve at Bragg. Ask people that serve at Fort Bragg or Fort Benning if they like the fact that the names have been returned. And to a man and to a woman, they will tell you, thank God we're back to Fort Bragg, and thank God we're back. And thankfully, because so many men and women in this country have served, there's a Benning and a Bragg and a Pickett and a Hood has a Silver Star or a Medal of Honor that we could rename the base to because of the limits of what Congress allowed us to do. So this is something we've been proud to do, something that's important for the morale of the Army, and those communities appreciate that we've returned it back to what it was instead of trying to play this game of erasing names.
We're not erasing history, Mr. Secretary. We're recognizing history and recognizing that mistakes have been made in this country. The greatest of all was the Civil War, where people took up arms against their country on behalf of the institution of slavery. And to continue the practice of recognizing those people and honoring them by the naming of these bases is, I believe, an insult to the people of the United States. Let me talk about the budget. I don't understand why the budget is coming to us in two pieces. Why not give us an honest base budget instead of putting a piece of it in reconciliation? As I understand it, OMB is saying we're going to have a flat defense budget for the next 4 or 5 years. Are we planning reconciliation every year from now on? Why not give us an honest budget, telling us what your priorities are, and then we can consider it. This committee always works in a bipartisan basis on a defense budget. We all want to see some increases in the defense budget, and yet you're giving us this this fake, here's a piece of the budget, here's another. You're cutting, in the base budget, you're cutting shipbuilding in half and saying, well, we're going to make it up in reconciliation. Are we going to have reconciliation every year, which basically, by the way, puts a significant part, 10 or 15% of the defense budget in a wholly partisan decision-making process, whereas in the history of this committee, it's always been bipartisan. Why are we doing it this way?
Senator, from our view, the budget number 961 meets the requirements and threats that we face. And
that's not the number. The number is 892.6. You're adding reconciliation. That's my whole point. Why not give us a base budget of 961 or whatever the right number is, what you consider the right number, and then we can operate and make our decisions. Why do it in this bifurcated way that really is fooling the American people about what the defense budget is?
We're not trying to fool anybody, sir. It's 2 bills, 1 budget. We're working with OMB, and we feel very comfortable with the number of $961 billion.
Why don't you give us a straight-up budget for the Defense Department? That's my question.
Senator, this is a straight-up budget for the Defense Department, and it's a
It is
13%
not.
increase over what Joe Biden gave us.
It is a two-part defense budget. Part of it is in reconciliation instead of in the budget that's being presented to this committee. This committee only has a partial review of the budget. I don't understand why we can't have an honest, straightforward budget instead of this son of Oko that you're putting over on us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The first debate centered on base renaming. A senator from Virginia, reflecting on his childhood, recalled how Confederate General Robert E. Lee was once celebrated in local culture. But he emphasized that Lee, along with others like General Pickett, ultimately took up arms against the United States in defense of slavery, and by definition, committed treason. The senator questioned why the Pentagon continues to honor these figures by naming major U.S. military installations after them. He asked directly, why not stop recognizing individuals who fought against their own country? The Defense Secretary responded by saying service members and veterans have strong ties to names like Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, and Fort Hood. He argued that renaming bases to their original or traditional names is about respecting the legacy and morale of today's soldiers, not erasing history. This sparked a sharp rebuttal from the senator, who insisted, it is not erasing history, it is correcting it. He framed continuing to honor Confederate leaders as an insult to the people of the United States. If you value these in-depth breakdowns of heated political debates, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next update. The second point of tension was over the structure of the defense budget. Instead of presenting one clear proposal, the Biden administration split it into two parts, a base budget and an additional portion tucked into reconciliation. The senator blasted this approach as dishonest, saying it misleads the public by hiding 10 to 15% of the defense budget in a highly partisan process. Traditionally, defense budgets have been handled on a bipartisan basis in the committee. The secretary defended the approach, saying the total request, $961 billion, reflects what the military needs. But the senator pushed back, noting that only about $892 billion is in the formal Defense Department budget, while the rest depends on reconciliation. He called it fooling the American people and demanded a straightforward budget. For clearer explanations of how budget battles in Washington affect national security and taxpayers, remember to subscribe to this channel. This exchange highlights two important debates happening in Washington: how we remember history. Should U.S. military bases should continue honoring figures who fought against America in defense of slavery, and how we fund the military. Budgets should be transparent and bipartisan, or split into political maneuvers like reconciliation. Both issues go beyond technical details. They strike at questions of national identity, accountability, and trust in government. If you want ongoing coverage of these high-stakes hearings, subscribe now and turn on notifications, so you stay informed without the noise.